Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Perino, along with Kennedy, Harold Ford Jr., Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Happening right now, President Trump is speaking at the House Republican Conference's member retreat in Doral, Florida. And later this hour, he will be holding a news conference where I'm sure he will talk about the latest in Operation Epic Fury. He just told CBS in a phone interview this: "I think the war is very complete, pretty much. They have no Navy, no communications. They've got no Air Force." He added that the U.S. is very far ahead of his initial 4 to 5 week estimated time frame. The president says he has someone in mind to replace the new supreme leader, but he did not elaborate. Iran just selected the son of their slain former supreme leader. Over the weekend, the president was making clear the terror regime only has one option.
I said unconditional. Unconditional. I said unconditional. It's where they cry uncle, or when they can't fight any longer and there's nobody around to cry uncle. That could happen too, because we've wiped out their leadership numerous times already. So it's if they surrender, or if there is nobody around to surrender, but they're rendered useless in terms of military.
This as Democrats and many in the media ramping up their criticisms of Epic Fury, with some folks accusing the president of being drunk on power.
This is Wilsonian adventurism at its very worst, something that conservatives, real conservatives like me, have long feared and loathed. Sort of drunk on power, this sort of drunk on militarism always leads to disaster.
If you support the troops, then you should be voting against funding this war.
The president has not even tried to convince the American people.
And now listen to the president from just moments ago.
Doing really well. I mean, at a level that nobody thought. We took a little excursion because we felt we had to do that to get rid of some evil. And I think you'll see it's going to be a short-term excursion. How good is our military, right? Amazing. How good. Short-term. Short-term.
I mean, you would like to think, Jesse, that everybody could agree that our military is extraordinary.
Of course. Afghanistan was a 20-year war. We are now in day 8 of this operation. He says it's ahead of schedule because they have very little Air Force or Navy left, and the missile launches and drone launches are down 90%. Has the regime collapsed yet? No, and that was part of the strategy going in. The deputy commanders were given full authority that if their bosses were killed, they could continue to wage war independently. So that's what you're seeing here, and those deputies obviously are going to have to be dealt with. Also, someone who has to be dealt with is the son of the Ayatollah. And once he is dealt with, I think that will hopefully send a message to the regime remnants that there's a new reality and they're going to have to give up their ambitions. But the big question is, Dana, will a militant, theocratic police state that's been ruled by clerics and militia and army for 40 years all of a sudden change their stripes under pressure? I think we're about to find out, but they are losing the war very badly. So now they're waging an economic war, and they're starting to hit Arab oil infrastructure, and they hit a few tankers. So they've closed the strait effectively. A couple cargo ships are going through, but not enough. So the president is very sensitive to the price of oil. He's gotten the Europeans to signal that they may release some of their reserves, but I don't think you're going to see oil at 150 or 200. That would be a catastrophe. And right now, it looked like it was up over 110, and it then closed below 90, and the market rallied. So I think you'll hear from the president at 5:30 when he speaks to the country that message that we are way ahead of schedule. He's got a control of the world energy oil market, and we should be hopefully wrapping this operation up very soon. I hope he's right. You never know.
Harold, what are you thinking today?
It's good to be back. I think Jesse is largely right. I would say the president took a hard look at the economic the strategy pursued by the Iranians, which, to Jesse's point, was largely to impart economic pain on us and the world. Even though we in the United States don't use as much oil as we did 20 years ago or 40 years ago, and our economy, as I tried to say last week, has grown considerably over the last 50 years, but our consumption of oil has not, for a variety of good reasons. Oil is a global commodity, so it's affecting global markets. And in addition, it affects us because of the reverberations it has in the transportation and agricultural sector. So everything we consume or eat, everything we need to live, oil is impacted, oil price is impacted by that. And I think the president saw that today. So I'm glad he pursued the off-ramp. The question for me will be sort of twofold here in the next several days. First is we have to pursue the off-ramp, and it sounds like the president, who is moved by the markets and numbers as much as any president in recent memory, sees that. How does Israel react and respond to this? And two, how does Europe react? Remember, the reverberations with the oil market are not just one day. You can't flip a light switch off and flip it on and expect this infrastructure and its ecosystem just to turn back on. It'll take a little time. I think about what may happen in the Middle East. Dubai has been a haven for economic innovation, for progress, and for safety. You have to wonder over the next several months, and I hope they get back there, the next few months and next several years, does that economic hub in Saudi and the UAE, how are they able to reclaim the credibility that they had prior to this war? And finally, I hope Congress does take an account of this, because we need to understand where we are, how much progress we made. It sounds like we hit a lot of targets. If the president's right, we depleted their military, but we thought we had depleted the nuclear capabilities back in June. So I just hope we are accountable and honest about it. And that way, moving forward, we can have the right munitions and right strategy.
Setting Harold aside, Kennedy, it is a little amusing to see Democrats be throwing a bit of a hissy fit over gas prices, because when it was Biden's administration, do you remember the Putin price hike?
Oh, no,
that was that over and over again.
Yes.
It wasn't Biden's fault and the Inflation Reduction Act. It was Putin's fault.
Yes, and there was nothing wrong with it. In fact, high gas prices were great for ultra progressives, because it just allowed them to force their green agenda down the country's throat. It's very interesting that the Democrat Party is sort of remoderating as the anti-war party, because they had become so hawkish for so long. But what I always worry about here are the unintended consequences, like the price of gas, like the price of oil. We don't know how long the war is going to be. And, you know, Pete Hegseth took some incoming for going on 60 Minutes and saying, we're not going to telegraph exactly what we're doing. We're not going to tell you if there's going to be a ground invasion, because there has to be an element of unpredictability. I don't blame him for that. What I worry about are the things that we don't see coming, the things that are not anticipatable, and the things that could really wreak havoc in the United States of America and with our economy. So I hope, to Jesse's point, I hope it's going better than expected. I hope this is done sooner than we could have imagined, but we are dealing with theocratic psychos. They don't care about their own people. They slaughtered tens of thousands of Iranians without batting an eyelash. So the fact that they are holding on for the hereafter means that they are far more dangerous than Venezuela or any other anticipatable foe.
The new guy, Khomeini's son, it's like new boss is the same as the old boss.
Oh, you know, must be thrilled, is driver. These guys,
like, let's just stay in.
Yeah, Ayatollah Jr. is going to get a lot of rain checks on his calendar. Like, I don't think I'm going to meet you for lunch this week, and can we do Zoom instead of Boom? But whoever they slot in to be in this role has to meet the approval of one person. Trump. I mean, talk about a challenge for a new hire. You got a job, and your boss can kill you at any minute. It's a lot like working here. But, you know, we worried about being fired. He's got to be worried about being fired upon. There is no verbal warning. There is no written reprimand. It's just kaboom. But if you don't interfere with the Persian Gulf or the Middle East, you stop being an a-hole, you might actually survive. Because my feeling is that the more you see about this, it's not about regime change at all. It's about neutralizing a bully. You know, Iran bullied its neighbors. It bullied its people. It bullied the United States for 47 years. Finally, there's a new student at school, Trump, and he hits him hard in the face. First time anybody's ever really done that. And now they can't take lunch money from people for a long time. Of course, you want to get the bully expelled, but maybe that won't happen. If you can remove the impact of the bully, you're doing the job. I think the idea of regime change is like, oh, if that happens, it happens. But as long as we can do anything we want in the region, which was previously hampered by Iran, that's a win. You can replace Ayatollah with anything. It doesn't really matter to us. You know, I'm amazed, and Kennedy brought up the slaughter of thousands, how all the female leaders here and abroad aren't rejoicing over this, over the decapitation of the most brutal, misogynistic regime you've ever seen. They executed women over what they wore and what they said. Trump has done more for women's rights than, I don't know, Planned Parenthood, Michelle Obama, and Hillary combined, and they don't say a thing about it.
So the story that's been on my mind all day is that during Newsroom, President Trump put out a Truth Social saying that the Australians should not send back the Iranian women's soccer team because they did not sing for the national anthem last week. So now they would get killed. So he said to the Australians, you need to offer them asylum. And I was like, I wonder if Megan Rapinoe would love to come on America's Newsroom tomorrow and say that she agrees with President Trump.
Put her in a
would be
tight
welcome
spot.
to do that. That would be great. We hope that that ends up happening. Apparently, Australians say they are on it. We'll keep an eye on it. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.